Tear me apart, Lisa!
Drop that zero and get with the hero.
Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome to my review of the VelociPastor. You know, once in a while, a synopsis of a movie is just so bizarre, you kind of sit here wondering to yourself, what am I doing here? But nothing I've ever said in the history of movie reviews is quite going to top what I'm about to say. So this is a movie from 2017, written and directed by Brendan Steer, and it tells the story of a pastor who is having a crisis of faith. He travels to China for some soul searching, and while he's there, through a series of circumstances, he comes upon an artifact that gives him the ability to transform into a dinosaur when he's angry. And when he arrives back home, a prostitute who he befriends encourages him to use his power for good by basically tearing the throats and limbs out of people who deserve it. And in the meantime, there's a group of ninjas. A group of ninjas, of course, who are running a drug empire, and so who better to stop these guys than Doug Jones, the pastor who can turn into a dinosaur. Oh, wow. So I recently heard about this movie. It's kind of been doing the rounds. Even though this movie was made a few years ago, it's only just starting to sort of gain in popularity. And there's a lot of things going around on Facebook, a lot of memes and stuff. And there was a friend of mine who said, oh man, you've got to review this movie because I love movies that are so bad they're great. And I went looking for this movie, couldn't find it anywhere. Through an insane amount of luck, I actually had the creators contact me on Twitter and sent me a link to the movie, so I've just got done watching it, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. But look, overall, I had so much fun with this film. It is definitely more of a comedy than a lot of these other, you know, so bad they're good movies, and when I say that, like, I know a lot of those movies do make you laugh. This one, though, was intended for laughs. Like, a lot of the dialogue is absolutely hilarious. And there's two things that I think really make or break these kind of movies. One of them is the acting. You know, like the last bad movie I reviewed was Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. And I mean, you know, the performances in that movie were just terrible. And the other thing is production design. You know, like when they actually, when you can tell if people had a little bit of money to throw into the film, or even just made good with whatever they had and were able to stretch it. So those are two things that I think really make or break these movies. And I gotta say, VelociPastor actually did pretty well in both respects. The performances in this movie were actually pretty good. I mean, yeah, the characters did overact a lot. There was a lot of scenes where, well, not just bad guys, a lot of characters just ended up laughing hysterically for no real reason and for quite a long time. But overall, yeah, you ended up really sort of liking these characters. And unfortunately, the villains in the film, they probably weren't fleshed out enough that you really sort of gave a toss who they were. But I don't know, you know, for a movie like this, it didn't really matter. But in terms of production design, they actually didn't do too bad. For the most part, there were a couple of moments in the film that left you scratching your head, particularly one sort of an elderly character who has a Vietnam War flashback, and they just sort of put this bad wig on him and just left him as he was, and oh man, but you know, that was hilariously funny. But the overall creativity and everything behind this film was actually really good. You can kind of tell that Brendan Steer is actually like heading towards a really good career as a filmmaker. There were some montage scenes that the way they did them using a lot of panels on the screen actually looked really effective, and one in particular where they just kind of went nuts on the panels where basically the whole screen was just covered in various panels with like a cool soundtrack playing. I actually thought that was really cool, and it was something that I've never seen done in a film before. And in terms of absolute silliness, yeah, look, I mean, with a premise like that, what do you expect? Don't expect a dinosaur that's going to look like it came off the screen from Jurassic Park. Yeah, it doesn't look great. But again, you know, that was half the fun. And yeah, look, it's the kind of movie, get a whole bunch of friends around, get drunk, get wasted, do whatever you need to do, and you're gonna have a good time with this flick. There was just something about this film that they really got right in terms of the tone. Like, it was a comedy film, but it didn't go all the way silly, you know, like your sort of Sharknadoes and other kinds of those films. But yeah, like just overall the comedic tone was just right. I mean, in terms of things that I thought was kind of let it down a little bit, some of the camera work in this film was a little bit amateurish. They used a lot of zooms that were, for me anyway, just a little off-putting, but some of the handheld stuff as well just looked a little bit messy. And I did think there were a few scenes, a few shots that lingered a bit long that I thought they could have just narrowed down a little bit in the editing, like just made it a little bit tighter. Sometimes like a line of dialogue would be delivered and there's just kind of like a bit of a dead pause, which I thought could have been trimmed a little bit. Yeah, I think I am going to get it to add to my collection. I don't know, it was one of those fun movies that I probably will revisit down the track. I would love to see my friends' reactions when I show them this film. And overall, yeah, I gotta say, VelociPastor was definitely my kind of absolute silliness. And on the trashy treasure scale, I'm gonna give VelociPastor an 8 out of 10. So once again, a really big thank you to the team behind VelociPastor for letting me see this film. I really appreciate that. And yeah, look guys, like I said, if you want to have a good time with a really cheesy flick, definitely check this one out. I'll put a link down below to where you can buy the Blu-ray from. And if you've already seen VelociPastor, I'd love to know what you thought of it. And what are some other of your sort of favorite bad movies that are so bad they're amazing? Drop me some comments either here, Facebook, or Twitter. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies, and I would love to talk about movies with you. Catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.